Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Geek Bite here on the
Geek
Buddies!
Hey!
People have said we should eliminate the A from the opening video, and it's like, what's wrong with two A's? The more A's, the better, for God's sakes. But
Two A's better than
that
one.
was always my theory on my report card.
Wow. Shannon is rubbing off on you.
Nerd!
Anyway, we are here to do a spoiler review for The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 6. Long time here. So much happened in this episode, and clearly from a lot of people's reactions, including mine, there were a lot of tears shed watching this particular episode. A lot of people who've played the game, Michael, I'm sure you're going to weigh in on this, have a little bit of complaints about the porch scene. So it's going to be an interesting review as we break things down here on this particular episode. And this is a spoiler review. So if you haven't watched the episode, please watch it, come back and hang out. Or if you don't care, keep on watching. Or if you have watched it, keep on watching it. But let's introduce ourselves. I am John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies.
I am Michael Vogel, writer and producer of animated TV shows, movies, and virtual reality.
And
Still workshopping it.
I like
that. And this is Shannon McClung. I thought it sounded good. That's why I jumped in. And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor, where you will not be seeing me on Spider Noir next year on Amazon Prime.
Yes, quite a few people commented on that and felt it was
yes
that it's going to have lesser impact on them because you're not going to
cutting into their audience a viewer at a time.
Absolutely. And I got to correct myself. The name of the episode is The Price. Sorry, I was looking at something that had been reviewed the other day. So The Price is the name of this episode, Season 2, Episode 6, The Last of Us. We're going to break this thing down in 3 separate sections. We'll talk about the opening scene, then everything that happened with Joel and Ellie, and then get into the final porch scene and how that played out here for the episode. But of course, we always like to start with overall thoughts. So Michael, take it away. Your thoughts on Season 2, Episode 6 of Last of Us.
I mean, I had said earlier in our reviews that I thought we were going to get the Joel flashback episode, and we got the Joel flashback episode, and they nailed the Joel flashback episode as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I mean, this is great. You know, I hear a lot from a lot of different people, some people who have played the game, some people who are just really into geek movies and TV shows, some people who are not into them, but like The Last of Us. And everyone has varying opinions on level of action, level of zombies. Do you like the show with Joel? Do you like the show without Joel? All of the stuff. But I think the themes and ideas that they've been exploring throughout the series, but most particularly this season, in why we make the choices we make. Are we right to make the choices we make? Are the choices we make the choices we make, whether they're right or wrong? All of the ideas that have been batting around here to end last week with Ellie doing what she was doing, and then to all of a sudden take this giant step back and sort of remind us of the good in the Joel and Ellie relationship, and also get into the bad of the Joel and Ellie relationship, and to play all of those extremes was heartbreaking. And I mean, PEDRO PASCAL could like win an Emmy for this episode. Like, he was just amazing. So I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was well timed to tee us up for the finale next week. And I love dinosaurs and astronauts. So what was there not to love in this episode?
Shannon, your thoughts overall?
Super enjoyed it. You know, this season, starting with episode 2, has been, you know, bit of a downer. So, I mean, there have been some bright spots with sort of the burgeoning relationship between Ellie and Dina. But filling in this gap that we had in between seasons 1 and seasons 2. And it was just nice to see. It was nice to see Joel and Ellie get along, and you got to see, especially based off of that opening, the way Joel was brought up, how he was trying to be better. And by and large, despite how things ended, by and large, he succeeded. And I thought the acting in this was off the charts. I don't scour the internet as much as my co-hosts, I think. So I hear some criticisms because, again, I haven't played the game. Like, I kind of veer away from those. But to hear a lot of the criticisms leveled at Bella Ramsey, to me, is just off the wall. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. But watching them together, I mean, the chemistry that those two performers have is just undeniable. And getting to see how things played out was, I mean, I don't want to say entertaining, but it was lovely to see, and then to know how it eventually was going to end, heartbreaking. And what a fun cameo that I certainly had not read about being. But yeah, I mean, this was another feather in their cap for this season.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. Obviously, being the son of a Latino dad who was a bit hard edged, it got me right off from the beginning. And then seeing how Joel was raised and how it affected him and his natural instincts since he was a kid, a teenager, coming in through different points of his life, I thought was a really interesting and moving way to reassess Joel, right? You're not going to forgive him for some of the actions that he's taken, but I think what the show does, and what a lot of great HBO shows do, and shows all over the place, is they give you one character, make you feel a certain way about it, and then flesh that character out more and more, so that now you start to see some of yourself in that character, whether you like it or not. And so it changes how you view that character. And I love that they do that. And they did it here. And taking us back in time was great, because it fleshes out what we got, what we needed to see, because we were treated with just them being at odds right from the beginning of this season. We needed to see all the things that led to it. And of course, it led to this incredible, in my opinion, scene on the porch that just spoke volumes about linking back to that opening scene between Joel and his dad. So just really great writing here. And Neil Druckmann directed this episode. So big credit to him taking the reins here, directing this particular one. But let's jump into the opening scene. As I mentioned here, we have Tony Dalton coming in. Some of you remember him from a certain MCU show called Hawkeye, and then another one called Daredevil Born Again, coming in as Joel's dad. You see Joel sitting at the table after he's talked to the younger version of Tommy. Basically, he's saying, I'm going to cover for you. He's not going to hit you. Don't worry about it. I will take the blame. He comes home through the door. This is 1983, I believe. Walks in the door, sits down. Joel tries to take blame for it. His dad's not having any of it because he's spoken to the kid, knows what happened, and confronts him with it. And Joel does have the conversation with him about the approach he's taking, about why he's doing the things that he's doing. And his dad says this really open, vulnerable, and emotional thing of like, this is the way my dad taught me. This is the way I learned to do it. And when you have kids, maybe you'll do better than me. So really fantastic opening scene, Michael, to give us a little bit of an understanding of the foundational emotions and instincts of Joel as a character and as a person.
I just thought it was really nice to see that he broke out of Wilson Fisk's prison. I was like, good for him.
Probably
good for him. No, this is a great scene. We're now in the territory of like not parts of the game that I played, but I do sort of have a sense from talking to people and everything, like what's in the game and what's not in the game. And this is not in the game. This is something that was added for the TV show, obviously. But I thought it was really great. I mean, again, we talk so much in this show about fathers and mothers and their children and generational trauma and what you would do to protect one versus protect many. And there's all of these elements coming in here. So it really just makes sense. This is a scene that wouldn't really make sense in the game. There's not really the right place to fit a scene like this in the game, but to open up this episode, which this hour of television is thematically about this, and drop this scene in and see that Joel at a very early age was already a protector, was already the person that was going to throw himself in front of violence to protect the people he loved. And then to have this really great monologue about generational trauma. My dad did this to me. It was way worse. I was bloody. My jaw was wired shut. Yeah. I hope I do a little bit better. I hope you do. I hope I do better than him. I think I do better than him. I hope you do better than me. I mean, that's really just summing up the other side of the coin of the road you go down. As Shannon was talking, I was really struggling to decide if Joel did do a better job. Like in so many ways, he did do a better job in the way that he protected Ellie. The way that he cared for his daughter at the beginning. Like, he was a great dad, but he also does have a really violent side that you can look at his father and his grandfather and say that's where that came from. And that violent side caused him to do some really, really bad stuff. And so I don't know. It was interesting. And especially since we really get to see Joel in full father mode for a good chunk of this episode and see the way he does handle things, in which case you could argue with, like, as Shan said, he did a better job. But I think, this show is not a show that says this person is right and this person is wrong. This is a show that says it's all gray and it's fucking muddy, and we do shit for good reasons, and we do bad things for good reasons, and we do good things for bad reasons, and it is what it is. So I thought this was a really great way to tee things up for everything that came after.
Yeah. Shannon, your thoughts on the scene we got here and the emotions it might have elicited as you were watching?
Tony Dalton was fantastic. Knowing pretty much going into Hawkeye, the only thing that I was really familiar with him was Better Call Saul. But even that, like I wasn't an avid watcher of that. I didn't watch that. I didn't analyze every episode of that show. I remembered him from it. Watching him go from this, foppish, elite Jack Duquesne to this salt of the earth police officer. What a tremendous performer. And the moment that he cracks open a beer for his teenage son, and it's like, all right, we're gonna have a grown-up talk right now. And the admission of, do I go too far? Yeah, probably. I never went as far as my dad. And I feel like there's a lot of shame in what he's saying, because in that moment, I think he's acknowledging, yeah, I haven't done as good a job as I could have done, but I'm doing better than who came before me. And my hope for, you, my son, my eldest child, is that you're going to do better than me. And I think that's a lot of times the objective that a lot of parents have, is not only do you want to do a better job than how you were raised, and that's not to say that how someone was raised was bad, but it's like you just want to provide a better life for your child than you had. And again, that moment where he doesn't kick down the door and beat the crap out of Tommy with a belt. He turns back around and goes back to work. Like, I just thought that was such beautiful work. And it's going to be funny, because I think this will be the back and forth that I have with Vogel for the rest of this season, all 1 episodes left, over what Joel did. I mean, because does he have that violent side that maybe isn't the best? Yes. That violent side also saved Ellie's life. And so, again, flash forward into, I'm guessing, past The Last of Us Part 2. If she and Dina go on to live a happy life and raise that child and achieve some sense of normalcy, it's because of Joel's violent side. So I think he did do a better job.
So we certainly can get into that, I think, at the end of the episode, as we see from the porch scene, for sure. Yeah, I mean, this scene, listen, my father used the belt quite a few times on me, on my sister, and my brother. So this scene really affected me, because I had this conversation with my dad on the edge of a bed at 15 years old, with a leather belt wrapped around his wrist, ready to beat us for whatever did. And I can't remember what we did. But I remember having the saying to him, why are you doing this? You're going to make your kids hate you. You have to stop. Right. And my father in that moment was like, I don't know what else to do. And I think one of the things I discovered in therapy that really was the breakthrough with me and my dad was that he had no emotional vocabulary from which to speak in this frustrated place. And violence was what he was raised with. Especially, I can only speak from the Latino experience. I'm sure there are other families that experience this regardless of ethnicity or whatever, but I can only experience this or express from that point of view. And so a lot of what happens here, and I'm the eldest of my family, so the protection of brother and sister is a thing that is deep within me. And the things that happened in that upbringing are things that have come out in my life at times because of what I endured during those things. So for me, this scene was incredible. Like, it would resonated on so many levels. But as the story, it was also damn good, seeing the way Joel was constructed from an early age. And I think those things are some things that are instinctual around people, whether you're the oldest or the youngest or the middle. Things happen and you take on certain roles in families. He just happened to be the eldest, and he happened to take on the role of protector of Tommy. So we see that as an element of him. But his dad, having already beaten him into his formative years, there is an anger, there is a frustration, there is a feeling that, you have this sense. And I think Mazin said it in the review or in the doc. He's like, he has this savior complex. And that's where the instinct to protect can go too far. And we see it later when he barrels into Ellie's door after knocking without giving her the independence to respond back and the respect. You see that entitlement that comes out of the savior complex when it gets twisted. And so I think there's truth to what Michael said and what you said, Shannon. So he lands somewhere in the middle, but I love this as an opening scene, and the Tony Dalton just delivering some great lines, and what he says at the end there, which of course we echo back in the porch scene, which is great. But let's dive into the meat of the episode, Shannon. We got so much happening with Joel and Ellie as they kind of go through these birthdays. They end up in this museum, end up on a dinosaur, end up in a rocket ship. She burns her arm, maybe kind of version of cutting or a frustrated, lashing out in certain ways. She's obsessed with moths, which we find out from Gail that it's symbolizing death. She gets a tattoo done. Joel barrels into her house and into her place. And so Ellie wants to get her own place eventually, which Joel gives her. And then on the end, one of the last birthdays, we see them going out on patrol. They run into Eugene, who has been bitten. He tries to beg off. He wants to see Gail. And Joel says, sure, no problem. We'll take you back, sends Ellie to go get the horses. And he walks Eugene out onto this thing and out to this clearing, and then kills him. Ellie confronts him with this, and when he lies to Gail about the noble way that Eugene died, Ellie reveals the truth about everything. And now we've seen the day that Joel was so worried about happening come to pass, where she's going to ask the questions. And we're going to get to that scene next. But what did you think of the meat of this episode here, with all these different vignettes all landing on her birthday, and the beautiful nature of their relationship turning into a more of a divisive relationship when she started asking the questions?
I mean, the majority is incredibly heartwarming. Like, it is so nice to see these two characters that we've gone on this journey with achieve that sense of almost normalcy. Like, this is a true father-daughter relationship. You see the things that Joel is willing to do to give Ellie a good birthday. Like, he goes and finds some Legos that he's able to trade with Seth to get a cake, and then to find out that she deliberately burned herself because she's trying to get rid of this scar that she has so she can finally wear short sleeve t-shirts again, and seeing how she's all doped up on painkillers, and when he presents the cake with happy birthday Eli, and she can't even wait in her doped up state, can't even wait for a fork and knife, just immediately goes in. I mean, it was just really really sweet. And it was interesting watching the behind the scenes afterwards, because I was curious. I'm like, is this in the game? Because this is not the most action forward sequence in the show. And for a show, it doesn't need to be, but I would be curious, is this actually in the game? And then to find out when they go on top of the dinosaur, the T-Rex, and then they go inside the space capsule, that it was in the game. And I'm like, God, Neil Druckmann and the folks over at Sony and Naughty Dog. I mean, what a bold swing. Because again, this is just not the type of gameplay that is typically associated with this. I would say not even just this type of game, but any type of game. Like, it's not, you don't lean into the emotions that much. A lot of time it's just point and shoot. But as gaming has gotten more sophisticated over the years, you do get these emotional stories. And I would venture to say, and again, I don't know for sure, but I would venture to say this is probably the most emotional story that we've gotten in games. Feel free to correct me in the comments. But then that moment where he bursts in on her, and the whole idea that this is my house, it's my rules, and Ellie leveling back something very true is like, it's not. Like, you didn't buy this. Like, they gave it to us in that slow righting of the ship that he's trying to do. Like, he reacts as his dad, but then he tries to correct as himself. And then, like, the reason she got the tattoo to cover up that scar. And then you get to that heartbreaking scene with Eugene, with the great Joey Pants. And God, I mean, I'll be fascinated to hear Vogel's and yours take on this, because if these are indeed the rules, that someone is bit, you don't take him back with the rest of the people. Like, that's not how it works. And while Eugene's argument is certainly valid, and it is chock full of emotion, at the end of the day, this is a situation where the good of the many has to outweigh the good of the one. And I know that's sad, but at the same time, like, what if something goes wrong? And the moment where, like, at first I was really surprised when Joel said, okay, you go get the horses. But the moment they split up, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
He ain't gonna see Gale again. And then as he is trying to give Gale the story that she wants.
Yeah.
And you could argue that that's not the story that she deserves, like she deserves the truth. Ellie coming in and laying down the law, and the fact that when she corrected him, and not corrected him, when she said, you swore, like, he didn't swear with Eugene, he swore with her. Right. After the end of season 1 about the Firefly attack. So I thought all 4 of those vignettes were, covering this, 4 years of time. I thought they were just all handled so incredibly well. And again, for someone who didn't know the game, I was really glad that Pedro Pascal got to come back.
And what do you think, Michael? I mean, this is, the flashback episodes you said, and also, like, we got to see them in happier days. And this happens, right? For a lot of dads with their teenagers, they love them so much, and then they cross a certain age and questions start to happen. They start to change. They want to be their own person. They want to have their own voice, and you get friction. So what do you think of all this leading to the death of Eugene?
Well, first off, I think Shannon is really fair weather on the whole good of the many, good of the one thing. I guess in this situation, the good of the many was more important. But in the we're going to cure all of humanity from this infected situation, that wasn't the good of the many. That was we should save Ellie. So it's
potentially
really interesting.
Potentially
really interesting where Shannon falls on the moral high ground meter there.
Potentially.
This is all. Here's one of the things that I think is really interesting about this show, and where you fall on your love for Joel, your love for Ellie, who you think is right, who you think is wrong, who you think is justified.
Yeah.
And I think that this father-daughter relationship that is formed is beautiful. What I'm about to say is going to say that it's not, but I do think it is beautiful. But it is also not what their relationship is, which Ellie is constantly trying to remind him. Like, this entire situation where Shannon says, I just think that, if Ellie grows old with Dina and she's on the farm and she's watching the sunset, that's because Joel did what he did, and that's good. And I'm like, yeah, but Ellie never asked for it, and Ellie's not his daughter. And everything he does to go, hey, you're my daughter, is because he is still suffering trauma because his actual daughter died. Like, it was clear at the end of season 1 when as soon as he was like, kind of made this decision, he was like telling, yeah, Sarah was like this. You two would have got along great. Sarah always laughed, and you're really funny. And you could tell that Ellie was a little bit like, okay. And she is constantly reminding him over and over when he steps up and does something that in his mind is, I'm protecting my family. And there is a nobility to that. She's like, I don't need you to do this. You do not get to ground me in this house that is not yours. You do not get to tell me that I can't do these things. You do not get to, like, yell at me because I got a tattoo and made out with a girl in my bedroom. Like, we are partners here. This is how our relationship is. And every time he kind of falls on the other side of that and she gets upset, there's a really good reason for that. Like, for what she is trying to express to him. And again, it doesn't make what he is doing for her and the way that he treats her any less beautiful and any less heartbreaking. But this is part of the complexity of this relationship. So when you look at it and you're like, oh, he's treating his daughter so well. How do you think Ellie feels about that? She says it over and over again. So like, that is kind of
when she's angry. She says it when she's angry.
Right. I mean, there is a pushback. You can say that she's quite happy receiving all the benefits of being the daughter, but none of the restrictions of being the daughter. And that's like, well, you can't have one without the other. You've got to be aware of that.
Joel is probably the most important person in her life.
Yes.
And she loves Joel, clearly loves Joel. And Joel clearly loves her.
Right.
And she can absolutely have this person that is her ride or die person who has been there for everything. She can live with that person. That person can get her cake on her birthday. Like, and again, it's a muddy issue. I'm not saying that Joel's wrong for doing it, but it is not just when she's mad. This is not just a teenager yelling out like, you're not my dad, you can't do anything. When she says, you are not allowed to say that I can't go on patrol.
Right.
Like, you're not allowed to do that. Like, if I want to go on patrol in this town, I can go on patrol in this town. That's not a teenager throwing a fit. Like,
no, not at all.
That's a justified thing.
She's
and
19
all of
at
this,
that point, yeah.
And all of this stems from, I mean, if we're going to talk about the thematic elements and why it's written the way it is, it all stems from the fact that she thought her life had a purpose. She thought she was making a choice to do something that was going to really make a massive difference in the world. And she woke up in a car and was told that she wasn't special. Everything that she thought was wrong. Everything was fine. Don't worry about it. Don't question it. And from that moment on, he was sort of controlling her life the way that he thought was best for her and not allowing her to make decisions. So when she says, you're not really my dad, you can't make those decisions, she's justified in that. That's not she's throwing a temper tantrum. Now, all that being said, as I said, these two love each other. Yeah. And I think, I think that's one of the jarring things when we get to the beginning of this season is you're like, wait, these two, the whole first season was them falling in love with each other. Like, that's what I love. And we kind of come in on their relationship being really rocky. And aside from her saying to Jesse, which is not in the game, really early on, where she's like, where he's sort of like, well, you and Joel were in a fight and whatever. And she's like, you don't understand me and Joel, we're very complicated. Like that, at that moment, you sort of understand that like she still loves him. And now we get the context of she basically said that right after they had that conversation on the porch the night before. But like they're still in a very contentious place, and it makes everything that happens with his death feel tragic. So for us, absolutely getting to see these scenes, both the scenes that weren't in the game with the birthday cakes and all of that, and him giving her the guitar. He gives her the guitar, but like giving the detail of him really carving the moth in it and everything else. But then particularly seeing this scene that so many people do love with the dinosaur and the museum, where he really understands her so well and gets what makes her happy. And his sort of nervousness, even after she's like had that amazing moment where she's listening to the recording and sees and like you see it kind of from her perspective of seeing what it feels like to fly into space. He has this nervousness when he's like, did I do good? Yeah. And like, cause he cares so much about her, and it's so heartbreaking. But then ultimately, even when they leave the museum, what is it that catches her eyes? It's a bunch of fireflies. Right. And so we see that even as happy as she is in this moment, and as much as Joel gave her the fucking bangest birthday that you can give in the apocalypse, like she's still thinking about it. Yeah. And then when we see that moment where she's rehearsing in her room how to ask him these questions, like how do I'm going down this list because I've got to be really logical about it. And then the whole Eugene thing happens, and that kind of gets thrown out of the way. But then, like the sin that Joel makes with Eugene, again, is not necessarily what he chooses to do. I mean, Shannon, I'll argue with Shannon all day. He is somewhat justified. Like, that's probably not the smartest move to take an infected person back to say goodbye. But Ellie's also not wrong that he wasn't showing signs. There is an amount of time. Let's get him there. Let's do, like, there was a world where it could happen, but that's not what Joel's real mistake was. Joel's real mistake was promising Ellie something that he had no intention of doing. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's really, like, had he been like, look, and it kind of goes back to season 1. Had he said to Marlene, you don't get to do this without her making a choice. You wake her up and we're going to let her choose. Right. She probably would have chosen it, and Marlene would have gotten what she wanted, but that would have been a different thing. Same thing here. I get it. We can't do this. We absolutely can't. But instead, he just promised her, looked her in the eye, gave her the same look, and that was the moment. And that's where, there's almost a level of what Ellie does when they get back to town is really mean to Gale. Like maybe Gale does deserve the truth, and what Joel did was not the truth, but Gale accepting that he loved her and wanted to say goodbye, but he wasn't going to put the town at risk. Like, what Ellie does isn't for Gale's benefit. Ellie is so mad at that point for all of her anger at the years of lies that she just lets loose And it's harsh, but like you see like in her eyes, and this is where I agree with Shannon, everyone who like just is dogpiling on Bella Ramsey can go fuck themselves. Like that girl in that moment when she is staring at him and says, "You swore," like that is a depth of anger that you can feel through the screen.
She's bringing all the weight of the lies that because she's now at 19, she is now like in a different place to finally have this conversation. Because I think between the both of them, they have kind of pushed it down and not wanted to necessarily confront it. And maybe Ellie in certain moments has kind of thought about it and then brushed it off, or maybe she lashed out in a certain way. She didn't have the emotional maturity yet to actually have the conversation. And for all the toughness we see of Ellie, her sitting in her bedroom rehearsing the questions, I think speaks volumes of the fact that this is a person who is so incredibly important to her that she wants to get the questions right. She wants to be able to get the answers that she wants from him. She's not just going to barrel in there and start asking questions. But then Joel, what he does with Eugene, and that unlocks her once and for all, where she realizes, I already know the answers to these questions. I don't even need to ask them, but I know the answers already, which we'll get to in just a second, which I thought was fantastic. I also look at this, you guys have covered it really well. I also look at this section of the show as Ellie is Joel, just in a different way. There is the same patterns are there, the same beats are there. Them having these beautiful moments and the cake and the museum and the rocket ship. I mean, the way they shot that, where she's like disappearing in the rocket ship, that was really great job there by Druckmann. But she will assert her independence when she wants to do it, and she will push what she wants to do when she wants to do it. I'm going to move out in the middle of the night loudly in the rain. I'm doing that on purpose to make you see that I need to be away from you. Joel builds her out that stuff, the new place out in the garage for her. That's great. I'm going to have a girl in my room, mess around with her, and I'm going to get a tattoo without telling. I'm going to burn my arm. These are little things. And even with the Eugene stuff, I'm going to touch Eugene, count to 10, and now I'm taking over. We're taking him back. So she has the same instincts as Joel in a different way. But what you said, Michael, is true. Joel can't handle the fact that she wants to have her own voice and she wants to stand out and she wants to be independent, and she has to keep reminding him in certain ways. And it isn't until she's 19 that she finally says, you don't have a right, which we'll get to in a second, to tell me what to do and what I can do. And when he tries to kind of school her on the ride, she says, I'm not your fucking kid. I'm your fucking partner. We're out here. So it's clear that she is now ready to stand on her own and push back against Joel in that approach. But again, as you said, Michael, it's muddy. It's really complicated because both of them have benefited from this relationship, this pseudo father-daughter relationship, yet both of them want to claim certain kind of things, certain kind of liberties or independence in that relationship that they don't have because they're not father and daughter. So it's a very interesting and complex relationship, which I think they covered really well here. But let's get to this porch scene, Mike. Let's talk about it. Let's hear your thoughts on it. Ellie shows up. Joel is playing with the guitar. We see what happens at the dance earlier and all of that through a different prism now. And they actually do end up on the porch having this conversation in the rain, talking about her need for independence, her need, like he can't stop her going on patrols anymore. She needs to be able to stand on her own 2 feet. He asks about Dina, trying to reach out. And then she starts to ask the questions about the fireflies and everything. And Joel reveals everything without saying a word, just nodding, and then leaves her with that final thing of like, I just hope that when your turn comes, that you do better than I did, echoing back to his dad. And these two moments here were just phenomenal to put them as the button and the beginning of the button of this particular episode. Your thoughts, Mike, on this scene, everything that got revealed here?
Yeah, I think, again, seeing the dance, and we already saw this exact scene play out, but seeing it play from Joel's perspective and not Ellie's perspective is really interesting because, and again, this is what the show does on a macro level, but they're doing it on a micro level here. When we see Joel's perspective going into the Fireflies at the end of season 1, we're like, I'm on Joel's side. When you see Abby do what she does, you're like, fuck this bitch. So here, we see it all happen from Joel's perspective. He's having a lovely family moment over here. Chilling out, doing whatever. He hears some stuff. He sees what goes down. He jumps up to defend Ellie. It is 100%. This feels 100% justified and nice. But given everything else that's been going on, it's just one more thing where Ellie's like, "You're not my dad. Leave me the fuck alone. Why are you doing this?" Like, and again, in a different world without this lie, like this is what makes it all so complicated.
Yeah.
In a different world, without this lie hanging over them, I don't think she cares that Joel gets up to defend her. I don't think she cares. A lot of these things that she's rebelling against, that we're arguing about whether she has the right to or not to, or she's enjoying the perks of being a daughter but doesn't want this. In a world where these two showed up and they had both decided, fuck the Fireflies, Ellie wants to live together, I don't think these fights happen. Or they don't happen to the degree that they do. Every one of these fights is really a fight about you lied to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what makes all of them more intense. So seeing this moment happen the way that we saw it happen, but from a different perspective, is really great. Seeing Ellie walk past, which we saw earlier, and she says to Gale, that's all that happened. We check. But then when she comes back, this is the meat of it all. I mean, this is where we see it all. And just the way they sort of talk around things, you know, for the way they just talk around things before she gets to the Firefly stuff, but even the way that Joel, as a parent, as a parental figure who clearly was not thrilled with the gay shit. He wasn't thrilled with the tattoo shit or the weed shit either, but wasn't thrilled with the gay shit.
Called it a fade.
Thought she was into Jesse.
Yeah.
Seeing him sort of stumble through the Dina of it all, like stumble through the, so you and Dina, and she's like, no, fuck, it's not. And he's like, but you like her though. And he's like, you know, she'd be lucky to have. You're like, oh my God, this poor man. Like he's trying so hard. And then she dives right into the thing that they have literally not talked about in 5 years. And I don't know fully what you have read, John, and why people are upset, but I do think that one of the things that I've seen where people are upset is in the game, Joel sort of lays it all out.
Yes.
Joel does his own little bit of talking about it.
Right.
And he gets to speak from his side. But what they did here, I think, is so much more real, first of all, and more heartbreaking, is that he can't even say the words. Like, she has to go through it and be like, did anybody show up to kill the Fireflies? Did this? And like the way he's welling up with tears and just can't even get anything out and is just nodding yes or shaking his head no, I think was amazing. And I think it shows the depth of his fear about revealing this, because what his biggest fear really is losing Ellie. Again, because he already got abandoned once as a father. And he is scared. He is scared to a devastatingly traumatic degree to be left again.
Right.
And he even says this in the scene when he's like, and now I'm going to be punished because you're going to turn away from me. He gets punished in a whole other way 24 hours later. But what his biggest fear is that she's going to turn away. That's why he's like, I'll build you something in the garage. He will do anything. As frustrated as he gets, he'll do anything to keep her because he doesn't want to lose her. And he's like, this is the thing that I lose her. Right. This is where it happens. And then when she says, I don't think I can forgive you, but I want to try. Yes. Oh, man. Like, you're like, the fact that these two, as mad as she is, and as much as she is, this is the biggest, she was so betrayed in her mind by Joel. And even with all of that, she's like, I don't want to lose you. Like, I don't want you to go away. And so on that side, there's that. And then, as you guys were mentioning as well, Joel's entire, one day, if you have a kid, I hope you do better. I hope you'll understand. And I hope you do better. And look, in the same way that he has the violent tendencies of his father, but those express themselves in very different ways. And he would never lay a hand on his kid. Ellie is going to have a lot of Joel in her no matter what, but would she make a decision for her child the way that Joel made for her?
That's a very big question.
That's really the question.
Yeah. And I also love the way Pedro acted that moment when he said that he loves her. Like, I love you in a way that you can't even understand yet. Yeah. And I mean, so many parents say that to their kids because the kids don't get it because they're not parents yet. Everything changes once you get older or you have a child, certainly. What do you think of this porch scene here? Shannon, this worked for you?
Yeah. I mean, what I thought was interesting was not knowing, again, the game, that on the game side, it's Joel kind of laying everything out. I think the way that they chose to do it was so much more effective, because not only did it capture Joel's fear in losing Ellie, but it also elevates Ellie to having her own agency, that she is the one, she is becoming her own person. And she is the one who is spearheading this investigation, is not the right word, but spearheading this line of questioning, being like, I've had these questions for years. I need to know the truth. I need to know the answers. You've lied for a long time. It's a fun rabbit hole to go down, the what if of Last of Us. If Joel had told Marlene, wake her up, she needs to know the full truth before she makes this decision. Say Marlene agrees to that, and Ellie changes her mind. Do they let her go? Absolutely not. At that point.
But at that point, and again, you could still argue that both of them are doing the wrong thing. But if she said no, and Marlene said, you have to, you can't leave, and Joel and Ellie fought their way out and killed everybody.
Yeah.
Abby still probably is justified in coming after the both of them down the road, but Joel and Ellie's relationship is solid.
Sure. But also, I don't think they make it out of that hospital, because part of the reason why Joel was able to get out of there was he had that element of surprise. And if you set up a situation where we're going to have a discussion about this, more eyes are going to be on that discussion, and those two don't make it out. So, maybe. But I do think that is a fun rabbit hole to go down. But yeah, this was just gorgeous work. I mean, Pedro had some really incredible moments. As you all were talking, I remembered in the space capsule when he looks over and says, did I do a good job? Yeah. In off the light, you can see a tear coming out of his, having trickled down like the back of his head, back of his face. And yeah, I love these two together. And that moment, I mean, that is such a real moment when she says, I don't know if I can get past this, but I want to try. Yeah. Like that's a slice of life that I feel like it doesn't matter what the subject matter is, but people have heard someone that they are close to say that to them before. And the humanity that Druckmann and Mazin are able to bring to this story that is a little larger than life when you take in, the infected and everything. The humanity that they bring to this story is just heart-wrenching.
Well, I think there's connective tissues to the first scene, not just in that final line, but also with Ellie saying that to Joel, because I imagine Joel mentally thought that about his dad. It's going to be hard for me to forgive you for all the beatings you gave me, but I'm going to try. And that, sometimes shows can lay down some therapy stuff without making it obvious that they're laying down therapy stuff. And hopefully some of that breaks through for people who are watching it, who have these fractured relationships with loved ones. And there is this sense of understanding. Like, she could have easily just dismissed him and gone off with her rage. But her saying, I don't know if I can ever forgive you, which is real emotional honesty, but I want to try, which is saying, I will try. It doesn't mean it'll happen. And there's an emotional maturity there, speaking the emotions out, both of them telling their emotions to each other, finally crossing that bridge and revealing all the stuff. And Joel gets off a little light because she does say she wants to forgive him when Joel's been worried about this for years. And now the time has come, and it has come at a time that kind of lets him off the hook a little bit, because she isn't like storming off and saying, I never want to speak to you again. She's still willing to fix things. And I think there's something in a show full of judgment. It's great to see a scene where there's a little grace from one side to the other. And so I thought that was really beautiful. And that's what you do for family or people you love. You have that thing where you go, you know what? I know I know the intentions of why you did what you did, but you took away my purpose. You took away my existence. You took away my reason for existence, but I'm still willing to figure things out because I love you and because I care about you. And I thought that was really powerful. So we could argue till the end of the time whether Joel has gotten better or not, but I think Ellie in that moment is better for forgiving Joel immediately and saying it, or trying to forgive Joel immediately and saying that she will try going forward. And I think that's powerful, honestly, with that. So, do we want to say anything about the ending in the rain, walking in the lightning? I'm not sure. What do you got there, Michael? Anything?
Well, it does tee us up for the finale. I mean, like that we did take this little detour, but this sets us back into the moment where, okay, like she beat that chick to death.
Yes.
And sure, was she gonna die anyway? Was it gonna be, or like, did she beat her to death? Did she leave her to become part of this infected, monstrous cordyceps thing?
Right.
But now she's coming back in to Dina, Jesse, Tommy, and like there's the immediate threat of, well, what the fuck are they doing? Are they getting out? What's happening next? Where does the show go? What's going to go on from here? But as you were saying, look, this show does, when characters are very honest with each other and are vulnerable and reveal what's really going on, it works better for them, which is true in life. Take any of the relationships in this show that actually work, and you can go to a moment, even with Dina and Ellie, and the moment where Ellie was like, I'm immune, and Dina was like, I'm pregnant, and then they got it on. Like, there's a very clear, like, honesty brings people together. So now what is Ellie going to do? Because if Ellie goes in and lies, then she is kind of doing what Joel did, then she is like, so like, it's a great show because there's the reality of the situation that they find themselves in, which, like any video game, is like, you're going to have to fight your way out, which is awesome. And that's what we want to see. But as Shannon was saying about this game in general, there's also this philosophical, what are you going to do with your loved ones? How are you going to treat them? And that, to me, is just as compelling, if not more so, than the fighting your way out of the WLF and the fucking crazy religious cult people. And then the infected on top of all of it. So I think I'm really excited for next week.
Everyone's infected in this universe in one way or another. Shannon, final words here. And what do you think of the final scene that we got?
I mean, the final scene was, a lot of times shows like this show was kind of this episode was kind of teed up for hope, because we get to go through the past and you get to see how things were working well, and you get to see this bond. That last shot is like, oh no, we don't forget where you are. You're in this terrible, terrible world, and you are in the worst. You are literally in the worst spot of it. So super excited to see how it's going to play out, but at the same time, oh man, she ain't finding Abby next episode. So, or is she?
I don't know. It looked from the scene that she saw her walking down the pier, but maybe not. I don't know. Two quick Easter eggs. Earth Abides is what Gail is reading in the diner there. You guys remember that when she's asking him about, or he's asking her about the moth thing? It is a 1949 post-apocalyptic science fiction novel by George R. Stewart. It tells the story of the fall of civilization from a deadly disease and the emergence of a new culture with simpler tools. Ooh, it sounds like something a prophet would be reading. The other thing is the song Future Days from Pearl Jam. That is what Joel plays for Ellie in that beautiful scene when he gives her the guitar and then she wants to hear him play it and he plays a song. It is a song from the game. And Pearl Jam actually performed it at the 2020 Video Game Awards because it's in the game. And the song talks about the future days of being with someone and not wanting to lose them. So very interesting and poignant song to play at that moment. All right, well, there you go. That's our spoiler review for, I think, one of the best episodes of the season here. We appreciate you all hanging out with us madly. Please make sure you... Oh, no, you guys handle all that. Shannon, what do we have to tell the wonderful people who've been listening and watching us here?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at Geek_Buddies, on Instagram at _Geek_Buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you'd like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Mikey.
Go ahead and smash that like button below and subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page so you can check out all the amazing content he has got there. Leave your comments below. What did you think of this episode? More importantly, where do you fall on the theological battle of Joel and Ellie and what is right and what is wrong? Philosophically, what do you think? Let's get into it in the comments below. If you're listening to us on a podcast, go ahead and leave us some stars and comments so we go up in the rankings. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
There you go. And in case any of you have missed our Andor reviews, they are up there finally. All the spoiler reviews for all the episodes are up there on the channel or on our podcast feed. Thank you so much for watching or listening, and we'll talk to you next time with a brand new episode of Geek Bites brought to you by the
Geek
Buddies.